So about a month ago, I had a great conversation with my friend Daniela at a networking meeting. We are talking about pursuing our dreams and not being caught in, per se, the rat race and not living up for the dreams of other people and being able to create the life that we love living with the family that we love being around and do the things that we love working on every day with the people we love working with. And today, now I'm sitting in the park, just split up a dog fight behind me, and I'm sitting here with Daniela, and we're talking about all those things once again in Spring Lake, New Jersey.
Yeah, you're a hero. It's it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. You've surfed. You're a hero. And what else? What else you got in store today?
Yeah. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you ended up doing what you do now in career and life coaching, and kind of how you left your corporate HR job in the past? Because a lot of the people that I'm friends with, a lot of people that I know have these big dreams for themselves, but they still kind of tuck them behind like what society wants them to do. They might be 23 and say, oh, I should go work for that company, or I should take this job before I do that thing. And it's good to see somebody who did it first and then they realize that, you know what, this is my dream and this is what I'm going to do. So can you kind of give me some background into that?
Yeah, I think it's really hard because we grow up with all these voices around us, people we respect, people we admire, our family, colleagues, who are telling us these are the things you should be doing. So it's hard to not listen. And oftentimes, and I will say this from experience, right? Like I wasn't the person with the most self-confidence growing up. And so I really leaned into what other people would kind of advise me on or say, hey, you're really good at this, go try this. And so that's kind of what I went to college, didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up when I went to college. But ended up finding human resources, which for me was a great balance in helping our corporation deliver on their business objectives while also helping people. And that had been something I'd been doing my whole life. I can remember being a kid, a teenager, my friends would come to me and ask me for advice. So that felt very connected to what I was doing naturally, helping people. And then I'd also be working for a corporation. So it kind of made sense. So I built my career in human resources, kind of grew into HR business partner and leadership type roles for different corporations. But and through that process, I started learning about coaching, and mostly leadership coaching, executive coaching, career coaching. But after I had my second daughter, I felt something was missing. I felt like I had gotten lost in the sauce, if you will. And more specifically, I felt like I was failing in every area of my life. I wasn't a good enough mom. I wasn't a good enough wife. I wasn't a good enough HR business partner, sister, daughter, everything. And that's when I kind of uncovered life coaching and changed my life through working with a life coach, and started to use those tools in my HR business partner role. So really was able to blend that and help people at work really define what they were struggling with and how they can fulfill more of their own dreams while being in a corporate role. Me personally, I think when I think about the turning point that led me to leave my corporate career path and start my own business was I was honestly like sick and tired of hearing this question that I had in my head. I kept replaying this head of like, what if I could do this full time? What if I could just be a coach and help people every day? And I was tired of like just asking the question. I needed to know the answer, even if the answer ultimately was like, no, you're terrible at this, you failed. I needed to at least try. And so that's what led me to start my business three and a half years ago. And I've been helping and learning along the way since then.
So something that you said kind of stuck out to me was like you were battling with like not being a good enough mom or not being good enough at the job. So like that's kind of a self-worth kind of journey that you were having at the same time as you were doing the life coach. So like how has that developed for you, I guess, since you started helping other people with that same process that you were going through?
Yeah, I think what helped me really, I think I started increasing my own self-worth through the work that I was doing, kind of seeing how I was important in life, how my voice had impact and was important. But if I'm being totally honest, what really kind of skyrocketed my self-worth, or my belief in my self-worth, is kind of seeing how I was treating other people and helping them see their self-worth. The things that I would say to them that I believed wholeheartedly, like, you are worthy just by being on this planet. You deserve to be heard. Your ideas are important. Your feelings are important. I would hear myself say those things to other people, which I believed 100%. And then I'd like reflect on it and say, like, why the heck am I not thinking those things about myself as deeply? And so that's been my journey the past couple of years too, and that's kind of what has kept me in this business. Is like, I feel so strongly about everyone's self-worth, and that we all have something special to bring, and some special impact that we have to deliver to this world, to this life, at whether it's at a macro level or a micro level, that it keeps me going. Even when maybe I'm not having my high self-worth days, maybe I'm having some doubts, I think about like everything that I say to other people, I really do believe for myself as well, and that keeps me going.
Because there's good. I like to say that the world ends up being a mirror. Like everything that we put out into the world, like we receive it. Whether you want to call it karma or call the world a mirror, like at the same time, like when you're able to help other people, like other people help you. Like I mean, especially when you're in a service-based business like the one that you're in, and
Yeah.
it's nice to see what you put out be reciprocated back to you. Because I think a lot of times we get caught up in taken from other people, especially like how much can I make, how much can I earn, like what can I do with this, and it's a very like selfish, I guess, excuse me, selfish sort of way of living, and I've been caught in it too. It's like, especially starting your own business, like sometimes you get tied down that selfish rabbit hole of like, oh my goodness, this is a good month. Look how much money I made, right? Like you get caught down it, but I think tying it back to like what you can show up in the world and what you could be in the world and what you could be for other people and how you can serve is like ultimately like what makes it worthwhile. It's not about the paychecks. It's not about building something bigger than yourself or anything like that. It's like ultimately about the connections and the people that you can help.
Yeah, and I would say, so I agree, and I would add, though, I think it's naive to think that at our base level, we aren't all thinking, well, what's in it for me? I think that's human nature. I think that's part of just our, caveman-like instincts of like survival. Like, I need to know what's in it for me. But the way to add to that is like, what's in it for me is I truly do want to help people. I see how coaching changed my life. I see how differently I show up in the world, from even as little as 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm a different version of myself, and I know I will continue to become a different version of myself. And I want to show people that they can do that too. So the what's in it for me is still serving other, but that is for me because it makes me feel like I have a purpose when I'm helping other people.
Because it's fulfilling essentially, and in that way. Because you're right, like it is a survival. The ego, right? Like it's survival. Like we have this little old me, and we need to appease it, and
At the end of the day,
we need to feel secure and validated, and I think another aspect that we can kind of tie into another part of your business is like it does have to be selfish, and you do have to do it for you. And you talked about that last time we talked about how like being a mom, a lot of times mothers, which is primarily your demographic, if I'm not mistaken, of people that you help.
Moms, yeah.
So working moms who kind of give it all up, like for their kids, right, for their family, and like they kind of lose that individuation, that sense of self, and they lose them in the life that they've created, sure, but at the same time, like how can moms specifically kind of keep that sense of self while also like providing for and creating a family, creating a business like yourself, and obviously that's something you're still working through, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so you're right. I'm still working through it, through it myself. And I think there are phases of motherhood. So I predominantly want to kind of uplift ambitious working moms, moms who want the career and the family, who want to be successful and move into leadership roles, but also want to be able to pick up their kids and take them to soccer practice and make sure and never miss a school activity or a dance recital. And so I think it's important, first and foremost, to know that there are phases of motherhood and we need to accept those circumstances. And so the mom who just has a newborn at home, who is in the grind of figuring out that routine of breastfeeding, of figuring out do I have enough 1 month old onesies versus am I ready for the 2 or 3 and 6 month growth spurts? That is a very different phase than where I am now, where my girls are a little bit older, a little bit more independent. Teenagers bring their own struggles, but first and foremost is really understanding, and embracing the phase that you're in. But the second piece is even just allowing yourself to answer the question of what do I want for myself. I am always surprised, Corey, at how often I ask that question of people who are interested in working with me. Well, what do you want? What do you want for your life? What do you want for your next career? What are your hopes and your dreams? And they don't know, because it's been so long since they've asked themselves that, usually since before they became moms, and that they don't know anymore. And they often start telling me, what they want for their kids. Well, I want to make sure that my kids are provided for. I want to make sure they go to college. I want to have a good home for them. And it comes back to them. But when I press a little bit on what do you want for you, they don't know. And so that's almost always the first step that I work with my clients on. It's just letting yourself feel safe enough to answer that question without any of the concern of is this selfish? Is this, am I being a good mom if I pursue this? Just giving yourself the space to answer that step is enormous. And we often don't even give ourselves that step. And then we go into, okay, how do we make that happen? And even if it's not the whole dream, how do we start? What's the first step that we can take to start getting you that life that you want? And it's a process, and it takes believing new things, believing that you are worthy of having that life, and starting to make those changes little by little.
So I guess the first step is identifying what is it that you want out of life? What is it, right?
Yeah.
Before you can sail the ship, I guess you got to know where you're sailing to.
You need a direction. Yeah, it's not. It can't just be, well, I want to be successful, because my definition of success is different than your version of success versus everyone's version of success. It's really helping them define what that actually means for them. Does it mean a specific type of job? Does it mean a VP level job? Does it mean some sort of financial wealth? Does it mean being, like I mentioned before, being able to have a flexible career where you can take off at any point to do the things that are important for you, for your family? Does it mean being home at night in time to make dinner and do bath time and bedtime with your kids? It's all going to look differently. And so we try to move away from what should I be doing, to what do I want to be doing?
And it's different now because more than ever now in our modern Western world, the feminine roles have been shifting, right? Like women have so much more dynamic roles in society now than they ever really did in the past. Back in the day, it was kind of the women were at home and they cooked and they cleaned and they took care of the kids, and now it's women own companies, and women are entrepreneurs, and women are building businesses, and women are some of them still at home doing stuff at home, but there's also the balance of all the wide array of these different things. So how do you help these people that you're working with kind of navigate that and pinpoint where do you want to be in that grand scale of all these different dynamic roles that you can pursue?
Yeah, and so the reason why we are where we are is because we have women standing up for what they want, and we have women realizing that they are worthy of going after their own, creating their own extraordinary lives. That they don't, that there's no amount of waiting that's going to create it. You have to go out and create it for yourself, and so beyond really defining what that looks like for you, then it's helping to build the courage to go get it. And I like to say, and I got this from a coach that I worked with, that courage comes before confidence. I think we tend to think like, well, I need to be confident enough to do this before I do it. And so I used to think, well, I need to be confident enough that I can run a business before I run a business. But that doesn't actually make sense because I won't know how to run a business until I run a business. And so first and foremost, we need to have the courage to try something in order to keep doing it, learn, fail, try again, till we get to the point where we're like, oh yeah, no, I got this. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more is women having the courage to speak up, women having the courage to, take up space. That's just even my own personal journey. That's been part of the work that I've been doing for myself is like creating that safety that I can take up space, that what I have to say is important, is valuable, needs to be heard. That, again, Daniela growing up did not feel that way. Daniela growing up was like, let me take up as little space as possible, let me be as quiet as possible. That's how I stay safe. And now I've really turned that around. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that. And I think that's why we're seeing so many changes. And it's a incredibly inspiring thing. And we need more of it because I know that there are still women out there. I talk to them every day who are unsure. They are stuck in the, I don't know how to cycle, right? They're stuck in the, well, what will people think? That's another one I hear often is what will people think if I all of a sudden, take time away from my kids to go, start a side hustle, right? You have to have the courage to be able to answer that. Say like, yeah, okay, yeah. What will you tell those people who maybe question why you're starting a side hustle? Like how do you want to answer them? How do you want to speak up for your desires when the inevitable person says, what the hell are you doing? Why aren't you spending more time with your kids instead of building your business? That takes a lot of courage. And I want to help the women who are ready for that.
And how'd you find that balance with yourself? Like, I'm not sure exactly how old your kids are, but like, how have you been finding that balance? Because like, I'd like to have a family when I'm older, and like that idea, like being able to spend time with your family, but also create a business that you love working within, and be able to have all these wonderful things in a wonderful place and on the planet, and like kind of having balance within everything. It's like, can you dream that big? But at the same time, it's like you see a lot of people being able to do it. So like, how have you been able to kind of navigate that and create that balance, but also prosperity, like of what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I love that question. I think there's multiple things. There's different tools and scheduling and calendaring that I've implemented in my life. I have an incredible partner who's very supportive, and we do everything equally. So all of those systems, let's call it, have helped. But I think at the foundation, the strategy, if you will, that has helped me the most is I always check myself as to like, why am I doing this? Why am I choosing to do this right here, right now? Is it because I think I have to? Is it because I think I should? Or is it because I want to? And that has helped me make a lot of decisions, not only long-term, but even just day to day, right? So the other day, I was at home, I was working, my daughter wanted me to go out to the pool and swim with her. And in that moment, my gut reaction wanted to be like, no, I'm working, I need to kind of do this, but I caught myself saying I need to. And I noticed that what I actually wanted to do was spend time with my daughter. And so I went swimming with her. Now, that's not to say that I always stop what I'm doing to go do that, right? I need to run my business, but I just double check myself in what is my gut reaction, and do I like my gut reaction? Is my gut reaction real? Does it feel good? Or is it this kind of never ending, you should be type of thing, which again, I know a lot of women I talk to feel that way, especially when it comes to things that have to be have to do with a lot of the traditional female roles, right? Like I can't go play with you. I have to clean the house, right? This idea that the house needs to be cleaned, that dinners need to be made, that things need to be in order. My life needs to look perfect. And then when all that happens, then I can make time for playing with my kids. Like that time never comes. The house will never be. My oldest is a teenager. I still have socks laying around the floor. Mm-hmm. And that's something nobody ever prepared me for, is the number of socks that are always on the floor. But I choose to ignore the socks and go swimming with my daughter.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like coming back to the root of like why you're doing what you're doing to begin with. It's interesting to see. There's different demographics of life coaches, and you have a specific like working mothers is specifically who you service for the most part. And I've worked with a life coach in more of the like men's health, like holistic health and wellness, right?
Yeah.
But I've also noticed that like all of the people in self-growth and personal development and like self-transformation, like there is this sort of formula that goes into it. It's like clarity of purpose. Like, what do you want? Like, envision it, right? Yeah. Figure out like what it is what does you want more than anything else. Kind of feel what it feels like to have it done, and then just take haphazard steps almost until you get there, and like you're gonna fall. But it's like it's ultimately the overarching vision of like, what do you want and why do you want it, and let that kind of guide the ship. And it seems like that's the same no matter what field of like self-help or transformation or coaching you're in.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of tools and strategies out there. The one that I always fall back on is where kind of the tool that I learned from my first life coach. It's called the model, and it ultimately says that like your thoughts create your results. So everything that we have in our lives right now, all the results we have in our lives, we could trace that back to thoughts that we have had at some point that have created those results. And the results that we don't have, but we want, we can find the thoughts that are keeping us from having those results. Right? So it all comes down to what are we thinking on a daily basis, because that is driving how we're feeling every day and how we're behaving, how we're acting, or maybe how we're not acting. Right? We were talking earlier about some of the challenges I'm still having about marketing and posting content. And it comes down to thoughts that I'm having, thoughts about like, well, what will people think? Right? And that's keeping me from posting as much as I'd like to, or saying things in the way that I'd like to. But which is what I'm doing, right? I'm working on changing that belief into something that could be more productive. Like, no, people want to hear what I have to say. That's going to enable me to take more action, produce more things, put more content out there, because I'm believing that people want what I have to offer.
It's so kind of going back to the idea that thoughts create our reality. I've gotten very deep into different philosophies, religion and philosophy. I've studied a lot of it over the last 4 or 5 years or so, and something that most philosophy comes back to is the fact that like the thoughts in our brains, the subconscious, like overall like writes our reality into existence. Like Carl Jung says, like until you make the unconscious conscious, like it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. I think is the quote.
Okay.
Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. So that idea that your thoughts create exactly what you get in life. Like everything you get is the product of the thoughts. So if you're feeling thoughts of lack or thoughts of
Yeah.
fear or lower
Yeah,
vibe thoughts,
scarcity.
scarcity. Exactly.
Yep.
Those thoughts
Yeah.
those thoughts will permeate your reality, and you'll likely be feeling those things. But if you consciously make the decision to start feeling those thoughts, that may allow you to live a happier, healthier, more prosperous life, a life that you love living.
Yeah.
Before you actually have that as your physical reality per se, like you can change your life before your life changes from the outside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a very interesting concept to me, because I think so many people are conditioned to, oh, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be, once I have this thing, once this happens, then I'll be happy. Or like once I reach that goal, then I'll be happy. But it's like that's just a false flag in our mind. These ideas that we set to kind of put off the gratitude for what we have right here.
Yeah, and you're dismissing the journey, because to get from here to there, right? Even if you're not there yet, you're having to become a different version of yourself. You're having to do things that are probably outside of your comfort zone, that are challenging, and you're dismissing like all the courage and the energy it takes to take all those steps. Even if you never get to your goal, I believe it's worth working toward it anyway, because along the way, you're becoming someone different. You're seeing what you're capable of. You're expanding yourself. And the one thing that I say really often to my clients is like, choose your heart. When people come to me, they have a problem, right? They have something that's missing. They're unhappy in some way. Right? And so that's hard. Feeling that way each and every day is hard. On the other side, the life that they want, they think, well, I have to do something that I've never done before. I don't know how to do it. What will people think? What if I fail? That's hard too. If both lives are hard, which hard do you want to choose? Right. And when I'm having on my hardest days, I remind myself of that. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, I chose this hard. I chose the hard of figuring out how to build a business. Right? Like, this was never something, I wasn't one of those people who grew up imagining myself as an entrepreneur. Even though I was surrounded by entrepreneurs, my mom, my dad, my sister, they all have their own businesses. That was never for me. And so this wasn't something that I envisioned myself doing, but I remind myself of like, I chose this hard, because the other hard, the one where I wasn't feeling fulfilled, the one where I kept wondering what if I could do this full time? What if I could help people every day, kind of make the changes that I made? I take that one. I take the other hard.
So I'm wondering, is there at all any spiritual component to what you do when you work with the clients that you're working with?
I go where they go. So I don't bring the spirituality into it. That's not part of my practice. But I am a spiritual person. If they bring up, God or an entity or the universe, I go where their energy is, because if that's what they can connect to, we want to tap into that, and we want to help. We want to kind of understand, how does tapping into their spirituality help them believe something new, become different, grow. And so I take the client's lead on that if they bring it up.
Understood. Because I think at least for me, in my journey, and I'm sure a lot of other people's journeys of like self-discovery and transformation, like some sort of spiritual component of God or self-awareness, like there is this sense of like a North Star that you kind of have when you have a connection to the divine in a way. I've been listening to a lot of Bob Proctor, if you know who Bob Proctor is.
I don't.
No, and something that he says about the relation between spirit and like the material life, like creating a life of abundance and wealth and prosperity. He says that spirit is always for expansion and fullest expression. And I was like, huh. that resonates, because like if spirit always wants to create, if spirit always wants to experience, if spirit always wants to expand, like of course it would make sense to create a business, to go be able to serve other people and earn a lot of money and be able to have this family, right? So I thought that concept was very I don't know, aligned with me. I was like, spirit is always for expansion and fullest expression. I paused the radio when I heard it. I was like,
You reflected on it a bit. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I think, again, because that resonated with you, we would want to follow that. We want to say, like, okay, well, what does that mean for you? How can you use that in your day-to-day to create the life that you want? That might not land with everyone, right? So my belief is that we have the answers inside of us already. My clients have the answers inside of them. They just need help tapping into that. They need help having the belief that what they think is right is like trusting themselves. So we also do a lot of work on building up that trust in themselves, so that what they think might be the answer, they trust that it is. Or at least it's the first answer. Yeah, it's the first answer. Let's go try it out and test it out and experiment. And then if that didn't work, then what's your second theory on what we need to do? So I think that it comes down to what is it that they can connect with to help them move through and change who they are, so they can change their lives.
Interesting. And it's almost your job as a coach is essentially being able to unravel that person, to be able to like ask the questions so that they make those connections within themselves, because like you said, like it's all there. It's not like it's not there.
Yeah.
It's essentially just the catalyst that you can provide for them to realize that within themselves.
Yeah. I always like to say, at its core, coaching or life coaching specifically is about helping people make decisions. Like if I strip out everything, the building courage, the self-worth, the mindset work, everything, the strategies that we put in place to actually create the changes, the actions, all of that, at its base, I help people make decisions and then follow through on them. Because just like we talked about earlier, even just deciding what they want in life, sometimes that's not even happening, right? We sit on the fence for so long, for so many years sometimes. I'm like, well, do I want this or do I want, I don't know if I want this, or well, let me do a little bit of this and then maybe I'll do a little bit of that. We sit on that fence for so long that we forget what we want. And so I help people decide, and then decide every day that that's the life they want. That's the heart that they're choosing, and to decide to take action each and every day.
And having that idea that you have to decide every day, having that goal that you have to decide that's where you're headed every day, is a concept that was introduced to me a couple of years ago in that Think and Grow Rich book, if you ever read that.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I would highly recommend. I've revisited that quite a number of times, and that's basically the first rule. And I mean, it was the first rule essentially in what you're doing is like find that North Star, find what do you want more than anything else, and Napoleon Hill says in the book to write it down, and write it down every morning, and say it out loud, and say it aloud every night before you go to sleep, so that becomes programmed in your subconscious mind, so that every day your habits are to create that, like that becomes your reality, and not to say it in the future tense of I will, but to say it I am, or and I mean I've been doing that for quite a bit of time. I do a lot of work with affirmations and it's interesting for me because I have quite a lot of ideas about what I could create in life, and sometimes I feel just picking one would kind of limit me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, do I really got to pick this one right now? Like, come on, I got to say this every day until it happens. So, but it's been interesting recently to kind of step back into that practice over the last couple months, and I've been repeating every morning and every night before I go to bed, writing it down and saying it aloud of like that I am happy and grateful to build a video production business, that I love operating and working on films and movies and high-level commercial work with people that I love in the place that I love in Monmouth County, New Jersey. To be able to like make these statements every day and say it with confidence. I've been changing it every day because I haven't gotten it exactly the way I love it. It's been a couple of months now.
But at least you're testing things out.
Yeah, but it's the idea to have that have the overarching theme of it, which I think serves so well to be able to have some sort of purpose every day, to be like, this is why I'm doing it. And you mentioned it before, to like tie it back to that reason, the purpose, the why behind it all.
Yeah. And I think it's got to be rooted in a belief. So I think affirmations are fantastic, but I think there's got to be a level of belief in there, because I was in a program years and years ago while I was a corporate role where that was part of the program, was kind of, now I forget the details, it was basically kind of writing these 10 sentences over and over again. And they weren't sentences that I came up with. It was kind of like, if this is a struggle for you, then this is the sentence you write. And you write them down every day. And I didn't connect with them. So even though I did the practice of writing them down every single day for like over a year, it never landed for me because they weren't what was true for me. And so, and even as I think about my clients, right, if a client of mine comes to me and thinks that they are not a great mom, thinking and or writing down every day, I'm an amazing mom, I'm the best mom in the world, isn't going to change anything, because if their belief does not connect there, it's never going to change. So we work to figure out like, what's the it's called the bridge thought, right? Like what's a bridge thought to get us to someday believing you're the best mom in the world, right? Like, could you believe you're a good mom for now? Could you believe that you're the best, you're doing the best that you can right now? Like, what's something that you can believe right now, that, and let's work on that and building that strength, the strength of that belief up.
So sort of like a stepping stone
Yeah.
to get to those higher states of being and
Yeah, because the brain can't handle like 0 to 60. Brain can't handle going from like I'm a horrible person to I'm the most generous, genius person on this planet, right? Like it's too big of a leap. And if your brain doesn't believe it, then your body won't believe it. And if your body doesn't believe it, you're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to take the action to become that person.
This makes sense. I think a practice that was super helpful to me in relation to that is I do a lot of like future journaling. Like I place myself in the future and then I write about everything around me, what I'm experiencing, as if it was 5 or 10 years in the future and I created that life that I wanted.
Yeah.
So I can almost create those memories for myself before they happen, like fantasizing, imagining, right? And like I think in a way that could be a bridge to what you're saying as well.
Absolutely. And what that does, Corey, is like our brains don't know the difference between like what's reality and what's something in the future, right? It just feels that energy and it feels the excitement while you're thinking of it. And so it starts to be like, oh, okay, if that's our life, then like what do we do right now? What do we do right now to have that life? It starts to brainstorm. It starts to kind of think through all the obstacles and how you figure it out so that you create that. And so I love that you do that already for yourself, kind of think of that future version. That's an exercise I do with my clients all the time, is like, what does future you, what does their life look like? What are you doing every day? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? Who are you spending time with? And I also do the reverse. I have them tap into their past selves, right? And what would they tell their past selves? Like, how proud would their past self be, right? I literally just had this conversation with my daughter about an exam that she took, and she did well, but she didn't do as well as she wanted to. And so I was like, what would you 3 months ago say about this score? And she was like, oh my God, I never thought that I would have done this well. I'm like, yeah, right, right? Like, tell your past self how well you did and watch her light up, right? And it's, meta and all that, and not everybody's into it, but I think that helps us really think about our progress. You're talking about earlier about how we kind of keep going towards goals and we never really stop. And right, I think that's part of it. It's like we do hit goals, but we never take the time to just stop and celebrate and be proud of ourselves and acknowledge how far we've come. Because more often than not, the life that we have today is probably a life that us a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago would have died for.
This is interesting. This is true because I think the life, like you said, that we have right now, a lot of aspects are the aspects of the life that we so badly want, so
Yeah.
badly desire.
Yeah.
And it's like most of those pieces are there in what we have right now, but it's the luster of the appearance of
Yeah.
that future that we kind of want so badly.
Yeah, yeah. And there's now I can't quote the article or the specific data because it was so long ago, but there was data showing how like we kind of stop, let's call it like dreaming or setting goals when we're around 30, right? Like we grow up and it's almost like we have the plan all laid out for us because of what we're essentially told, right? Like you're supposed to finish high school, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get a job, you're supposed to start a family and have a house, right? It's almost like the majority of us kind of hear that and that's what we work toward. And then when we have that, it's like, okay, now what? Right, I did all those things, now what? And then we just stop. We just stop setting goals, we stop dreaming. We're like, okay, got all those things, now I'm just gonna coast for the rest of my life.
Well, do you think that that's something innately human that we stop dreaming, or do you think that's something that's kind of been put on us with the way that we've been brought up and socialized?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think there is definitely the human side of it that in terms of like the fear, right? It's almost like and this is probably where the societal stuff overlaps, right? Like society has told us to like this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so I think that helps us believe that we can do it. I can go to college, I can start a family, I can have a home because that's what society is, right? So it's almost like I don't have to work that hard to believe that I can have that. So we just kind of do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I've never heard a kid say like, I don't think that I can graduate high school. It's just like I'm just going to high school, and then they finish high school, right? As hard as it is, as challenging it is, they just do it, right? But I think after that, then we get to a point where it's like everything else is up to us, and our innate fear stops us from making it because everything else is like, oh, but there's no like prescription, there's no clear path of what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm just gonna stop. Or like the clear path that I see around me is that everybody just stays in their lane forever. And so I guess that's what I'm supposed to do too.
Well, the people that create extraordinary things in life do they act extraordinarily. You know,
Yeah.
their lives are extraordinary
Yeah.
because whatever they've created had to reflect like how they've lived. Like you got to be delusional, I think. You got to be delusional in a way to like create something out of the norm, to not just like fit in and conform. And like it's easy to grow up and live in the relatively same area that you grew up in and get a house and have a family.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful life, and most people do it. And it's like, I mean, at least for me, it's like, like I would feel as if I was almost settling to per se. I mean, in my mind, like just do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's unlimited opportunity. There's unlimited experiences and places to see and things to create in life. And if we want to do it, we have to carve that path for ourselves because it's hard to find somebody that's lived the life exactly the way you want to live it.
Yeah.
You know, you can read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and whatnot, but like, are you going to read the podcast? Are you going to listen to the podcast of your life after you lived it? Like, nobody's going to have the path for you.
Yeah. And it's natural to want to kind of, again, just do the norm, right? I think that's how we've survived as a species is by like, staying with our community, right? Making sure that we weren't like outcasts back back in the day, right? Like being a part of a community, that is how we've survived. And so that instinct makes sense for survival purposes. But we are lucky enough to live in a world where we're not all, right? Obviously, there's parts of the world that there's a lot going on. But, right, if we're talking about us here, right, in general, we're not all worried about our survival every single day, right? Like we are able to think about how can we expand, how can we thrive, and we get to kind of choose what that looks like. But it is delusional to go out and take a chance at doing something different and having people wonder, like, what the heck is she thinking? Right? Like, why is she doing that? Like, for me, it was like, I had a great HR career. What the hell was I doing walking away from it and starting this business? Right? I'm sure many people had that thought. I sure had that thought. Right? But but what I know to be true is, even though there's that natural pull for us to want to be the norm, do things as we're supposed to, do things that other people understand and can, resonate with, even though we have that, many of us also have this pull of something grander, of something bigger. And the more that we shut it down or ignore it, the sadder we are, the less alive we are. And kind of tying that back to, moms, right? If we are not, as moms, if we are not feeling alive, our kids see that. And one, it changes their experience of the world, right? Because if we're not feeling alive, then they're probably not feeling alive either, right? They're probably not having the most fun life that they can either, because they're seeing moms not feeling alive and vibrant and energized. And secondly, which is like the message that I'm really trying to get across, is that, like, if we are not feeling alive, doing things that light us up, we are teaching them essentially, and this is like unconsciously, but we're essentially teaching them that they can't do that either. And that terrifies me when I think about my kids, and I have girls, right? So particularly, growing up as women in this world, I want them to know that they should be thriving. They should be going after their dreams. They absolutely need to feel alive and feel inspired and feel ignited about by the life that they create. But if I'm not role modeling that for them, like, how are they going to know that it's okay for them to do it? How are they going to know that it's safe and that I'll support them and that the world is theirs for the taking? So that's really the message that I'm getting across, is that, like, as moms, it is our responsibility to thrive and go after our dreams so that our kids know that they should too.
I appreciate that. That's I feel like parents especially moms, have a responsibility where like they're the sole source of like everything for a child, It's like It's like they come out and it's like, well, what do they need? Like and it's like when you can consciously show up in a way that not only provides like the basic elements of survival for your kids, but
Right.
because plenty of parents provide those basic elements of survival, but then the overarching larger things of like being able to have this sense and ability to dream, like you're saying, right? Like I think that's so important for like a child to be able to look up at a parent and be like, wow, like look what they created, look what they were capable of. Now I have the opportunity to do something similar. Like I admire that, and a lot of the older people that I've met, especially in the last year and a half or so since I started my business, it's like connecting with these people who are just like, oh, they have a family and they have a business, and like they go out of their way to make sure to teach their children that this is very normal and this is very easy. Right. And it may not have been for them, But like how how amazing would that be if your kids can grow up in a way where it just makes sense? It's like it just makes sense for them to start their own business. It just makes sense for them to get a high performing role at a company that they may be very aligned with, or to do exactly what they want to do, or travel the world and like whatever it is, you know, it's like whatever lights them up to just feel worthy of it and be able to just make that dream a reality.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier about how there's this, growing number of women in businesses and women in leadership roles, right? Like, and we see that difference. I want them to grow up just like that's the norm. Women run businesses. I want them to know that, like, that is not unusual. That is just what it is, and it's, me saying it isn't the same as me role modeling it for them, right? I tell my kids all the time, like, go do hard things. If they tell me they're scared to do something, I'm like, good, go do it anyway, right? I'm like, go try it out. But if I'm not then also doing the same, if they see me backing away, if they see me kind of staying in my safe comfort zone, then my words aren't going to mean anything. So when I tell them, hey, Mommy's gonna go record a podcast today and I'm nervous about it, right? That shows them I'm scared to do something, but I'm still going, right? And it shows them that they can do the same thing.
That's good. I appreciate you being a role model. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. This was a great conversation. Like, I like seeing people, and I like hearing from people who are going outside of that norm. And like, since last year, beginning of 2024, since I started my business, I've had a lot of conversations with people, not too many on the camera like this, but with so many, countless people I've talked to that have went outside of the norm, created businesses in foreign countries, and coached people online, and started businesses doing roofing and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Like all these crazy businesses and all these crazy experiences they've had, and it's just, I try and take an aspect of all of it and be like, okay, where does this fit into where I'm at and like what I want to create ultimately. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And listen, I think speaking of role models, I think you're a role model as well. What you're doing and what you're putting out and just kind of being your authentic self. And I mean, certainly for me, when I watch your content, I think like, okay, all right, like it's almost like it gives me permission to be doing things that I want to be doing too. And so I appreciate everything that you're doing, and thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I try and just, I don't try to, I just put myself out there as best as I can, you know?
It's a beautiful thing. It really, I think you do it, it comes so naturally to you that you take it for granted, but I will tell you it is not natural for everyone. And so seeing that is inspiring.
Well, thank you. This was great. This is a good conversation.
Yeah,
beautiful afternoon that we have, beautiful morning that we have. So I'll close it out. And do you want to plug in your LinkedIn or Instagram and stuff like that? And then so I can link it in like the description and whatnot?
Yeah. So people can find me on LinkedIn at Daniela Reiner, and then on Instagram at Daniela_Ironbound Coaching. Awesome.
Well, thank you guys. You guys made it all the way through here. We'll clip this thing up. We'll get it on Instagram, on LinkedIn, probably collaborate a bit on it. And yeah, hopefully we have some more videos like this coming out. I'll be traveling Europe all summer for the next 2 months or so.
Amazing.
And I'm sure that I'll be setting this up with my girlfriend, Deanna. Her and I are doing quite a bit of podcasts in the beginning of this year. Now we're getting some time on our hands to probably do a whole bunch more. So you'll be seeing a lot of that content going out. And yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.
This was wonderful, and peace.